Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Baffoe. In this podcast, I speak to Africans from across a multitude of sectors, including business, art, culture, media, design, technology, advertising, and everything in between, delving into their journeys and reflecting on the lessons they have learned along the way. It's about gaining insight into why and how they do what they do. These conversations offer a treasure trove of takeaways on a wide range of topics, including craft, relationships, wellness, parenting, entrepreneurship, and much more. So my guest today is Dumisani Mahlangu. He is the founder or co-founder and CEO of Chepa Streetwear, a growing clothing brand which he started in 2017, following some years working in both corporate and the public sector. Welcome.
Thank you.
That was very formal. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
The beauty of this experience of this podcast is often that a lot of the people I talk to, there is some link somewhere in the past, or I've been following their work.
Yeah.
And with you, I've done both. Like
Sure.
we do have a link and relationship from the past,
Yeah.
but it's been interesting kind of following you over the last couple of years. But I want to go way back.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to be when you were growing up?
A DJ. Honestly, I wanted to be a DJ.
And you grew up in Mamelodi, right?
I grew up in Mamelodi.
Why a DJ? What was it about DJ?
So I grew up loving music. My dad was a huge jazz fan. So he'd play jazz, he'd play soul. And him and his friend used to hang out at home. And he'd have a huge record collection. You know, like back in the days, there were these big records and they'd play them on the record player. And he'd always entertain his friends, you know, and looking at him and looking at other DJs, you know, house DJs, hip hop DJs, I kind of felt like that's where I want to be because I love music. It inspires me. It's part of me. So that's what I wanted to be.
I love that you call them records because I use records and then people be like, records? I'm like, oh, vinyl.
Yeah.
Because that's become the thing now.
Yeah.
What was your favorite music? Kind of growing up in a house, because I also grew up in a house with that strong old school jazz influence. But ended up kind of going my own route to a certain extent. And then as I got older, I find that I listen to everything, but I also go back to, because I have my father's record collection in the house.
Yeah. So my favorite music, because of my dad, jazz. I love Cannonball Adderley. I love Miles Davis. Your Aretha Franklin's. But, you know, as you grow up, you kind of warm up to different genres. You know, growing up, my sisters used to listen to a lot of R&B, and I'm the only boy in the house. You know, there's like 4 of us, 3 girls, 1 boy. I'm the last born. So you'd find my mom and dad dancing to Aretha Franklin, you know. So I think just seeing that kind of put a fire in me, you know. R&B was a huge impact. But as time went on, I gravitated more towards the storytelling of hip hop, like your Nas, your KRS-Ones, your Common, your Most Defs, your Talib Kweli's. So in high school, it was purely hip hop. And I think that's purely been my influence and my genres that I gravitated towards.
I'm curious, you said you're one of 4, the last born.
Yeah.
And the only boy.
Only boy.
What was your relationship like with your father growing up?
Tough. My dad was strict. My dad was when I was young, the relationship was great because I hadn't matured. You know, my brain wasn't as ripe. So I'd follow him everywhere. You know, I'd be his little boy. But then came teenage years where I'd rebel. Um, Not a lot of people know this about me, but for some good 10 years, I was Rasta. That kind of created the friction because he didn't understand or believe in the philosophy. But during that time, I found a lot about who I am. I even started a publication that I ran for about 4 years, and went across the country. I used to travel with the publication. I had a team. I used to shoot and write, and I was writing a lot of poetry also. So there would be poetry slams that we put together at the State Theatre and other events. And I think during that time was a time of him being so disconnected from me because he didn't understand. And he didn't understand. I wasn't able to sit down and say, even if I did, because of his traditional thinking, he would still be like, type of thing, you know.
What was it that drew you to, to Rastafarianism as, I guess, as a religion and as a way of life?
I think the independence, the freedom of thinking, the consciousness behind it, the sense of self as a black person, the philosophies of Gavi, the spiritual teachings of Haile Selassie, the philosophies of your of other thinkers, you know, like your Henry Clarks. So at that time, that was a very, I can say, sensitive time in my life because I was looking for identity. I was looking for who am I in this space and in this world, you know, and how is it I come from how is it I come from a group of people who have been subjugated for so long, and how do I get myself out of it? Because it's not only physically, but it's also mentally. And I found that the philosophy gave me that outlet to think outside of the box, to free my mind, and to empower the self. That no matter who I'm up against or who comes to me to try and belittle me, then I can denounce them easily purely by the history that I've read, studied, and learned, and the philosophy, because it's empowering. Now, as a black student or a black boy, once you understand who you are and the philosophies that your elders wrote and carried to empower you, it helps. It helps to kind of put yourself in a level of independence. And I kind of felt untouchable, to be honest.
How old were you when you started?
At that time, I was 18, 19. Yeah, I kind of felt there was a sense of arrogance in me because I'd walk around and be like, no matter what you throw at me, you can't belittle me.
And that was your transition from, say, what, high school
to varsity.
I mean, it's interesting because I believe 18, 19 is that age when, I know as a young man or going from boy to man in terms of that search for identity, that search for kind of, it's the first time one is really starting to question who they are,
yeah,
and what their identity is.
Yeah.
When you say for about 10 years, I also believe that, especially as men, like 27, 28, 29 is when it's the next kind of shift in terms of you've gone from that boy to, you've gone from that boy to a man, and you think you have it figured out.
Yeah.
And then you reach 27, 28, and then you realize you haven't quite got it totally figured out, but you have some life experience behind you to now shift and but establish a bit more of a foundation in terms of who you are moving forward.
Yeah, I think a lot of people belittle their experience in life because those experiences eventually create who you are, who you're going to be. And I was fortunate enough to go through quite a lot of things that have shaped who I am today. And some of them good and some of them bad. And even the bad, they were there for a reason. They were either challenges or lessons. And so I treat them as they come. And I learn from all of them. And if I can change something, then I can do that. But if I can't, then there's nothing for me to change but to learn from. And I think a lot of people go through so much and then they end up having a sense of fear. And that fear kind of inhibits the potential of who they can be. And growing up, I kind of felt that as well. I mean, I lost my mom at a very young age. I think I was 8 or 9 years. So I didn't grow up I grew up without a mom. My sisters were my moms. My dad and we didn't have a great relationship, but I can tell you everything I've built myself to be is because of him, because I don't resent him, but I give him the highest respect. And even when he's gone now, I love him even more dearly than ever because of how he treated me when I was young. And so goes the saying that, when you're young, you don't understand why your parents do certain things, but when you get older, you understand why,
And you start to become them a little bit.
Yeah, you start to become them a little bit. And I mean, from music to my work ethic to the entrepreneurial dreams that I have, he's the foundation.
So, I mean, what you did a degree in economics?
Yeah.
So you are Rasta. You're from Mamelodi. You've created a publication. You're doing poetry, etc.
Yeah.
And then you go to university, and you eventually settle on economics. It feels a slight contradiction.
Yeah, it does.
How did that happen?
So, economics, I fell into it, eh? In high school, I was very good with accounting. And then I thought, let me try it. Let me do a BCom in accounting. Started off with accounting. Then I fell out of love with accounting. But remember that at that time that I was in varsity, I was also doing the publication. And I was also waitering as well. So I was a waiter. I was at school and I had a publication. So it was 2021. Now, in my 20s and 21, not the year 2021. So I kind of fell out of love with accounting. And then I thought, I've got my first core modules, maybe I can switch. So I looked at philosophy, but I'd have to start first year. Then I looked at law, then I was like, nah, I can't do that long stretch. And then I looked at economics and I read, what's this guy's name? Father of Econ, Adam Smith. I read a book by Adam Smith. And one quote really stuck with me, that it's not out of the benevolence, it is not out of the benevolence of the baker. The baker or blacksmith, that they do their work, but out of something else. I forgot, out of capital or something. So it just hit me that people or entrepreneurs or people who have businesses don't do it out of their benevolence, but because there is an exchange, whether it's barter or whether it's currency. And then I dug a bit more, I learned on organizational behavior, development economics, and I think that's what hooked me, development economics, because development in economics spoke to how countries develop, how humanity is impacted by economic policy, the law of supply and demand. And then there was behavioral economics and how people behave when certain marketing conditions shift, or when currencies are low, or when there is no crops, there's no water. And I think that social aspect of economics is the one that hooked me. I hated econometrics, the subject, because that was more numbers and was granular. It was graphs and all of that. But the philosophical side of economics, that's the one that hooked me. And
it's ironic because I was going to ask you about econometrics, coming from an interest in accounting, and then eventually kind of settling in economics, but it being the social side, the development side, the humanities side that attracts you, not econometrics.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, my father would have loved you, because my father was an economics professor.
Yeah.
And that's my major. I majored in economics as well.
Yeah.
I kind of went into the family business, kind of.
Yeah.
Because I've never gone into teaching. But so my, first year economics, you walk in, and I still remember our lecturer going, well, neoclassical theory is the dominant theory of economics. And then for 2 years, they taught us that. And then the same lecturer walked in third year when it's just those of us majoring. And we've gone from like 400 to maybe, just under 100 students in a class. And he went, you remember when I said neoclassical is the dominant? I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, okay, I lied. And then the compulsory module was alternative economic perspectives.
Yeah.
And then they were starting to teach us these different perspectives.
Yeah.
And when you wrote an essay, you had to pick your lane and then argue for it. And so as electives, I did history of economic thought. I did history of economic thought, radical economics, which included Marxism and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I am a socialist at heart.
Yeah.
And then development economics, which was my father's area. So I get I kind of see that connection in terms of that journey, in terms of embracing Rastafarianism and then connecting with the humanities or the social side of economics.
There's a huge connection. There's a huge connection. I think later on, because of time, and because of growing up, and because of, I think I moved from being, I'm happy living out in the bush with my tent and fending for myself type of mindset, to how do I then empower society, and the thinking shifted. As I grew up, there was change. No, I don't like monotony. I like change. I like, and I think that's why even I've gravitated so much to liking technology, because there's constant change and my thinking evolves over time to adapt. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be here. I think I'd be stuck in my old ways. Yeah, so I think that really shaped me quite a bit. Varsity, and the people that I met, waitering was was also a jump. I mean, I did single shifts, double shifts, because I needed to pay for the publication, because I need to pay writers, I needed to pay the photographer, I need to pay for trips. And I made good money, but over time, it just weighed so much on me, on the body. And then I decided, nah, you know what, let me just focus on this school thing, finish, and then, yeah, see where it takes me.
How'd you end up as a communications
Oh.
officer, Department of Water Affairs?
A friend of mine hooked me up with that job, hey? A very good friend of mine from high school. He was already working. I didn't have a job at the time. And I was looking for, I think this is it was one of the biggest lessons learned, where I stopped the publication. And I think it's something that's another conversation altogether, because I had given up. I threw the towel in. You know, there's a lot of things I started and I stopped that I've given up in. And I think this one hurt me the most, you know, stopping the publication. And then I needed, I was very independent. I didn't, you know, growing up with my dad, he was very frugal. So he wouldn't give out money, you know. And, you know, I want a sneaker. I want independence. So I go out there, get it for myself. I had a little spaza back in Mamelodi, and the guy who I put there in the spaza literally took the revenue and just ran away.
The joys of cash business,
hey, bro. And I had the stock that I was selling from the t-shirts and sneakers also. That also had just blown the money, you know. And then I was like, okay, I need something serious. So he got me that job, and I took the publication that I did, the Rasta magazine. It was called Rasflex. I took that publication to the interview. And then they say, you have no journalism background, no qualification. I see you were studying here. So what are you going to offer us? Gave them the publication. I said, I'm the editor of that magazine. I've got 3 volumes here. They are. And I understand that the department doesn't have this, and the internal communication is next to none. So I'm here to revive this for you. That got me the job.
Your Rasflex got you a job at the Department of Water Affairs.
It got me the job. And I started working, and I released a couple of volumes while I was there. And I learned about, obviously there was bureaucracy in the department, but I learned quite a lot from their processes and their systems. But purely I was just there to learn. I think everything that the course of my life was learning all the time, just being a sponge.
And then moving to insurance?
Moving to insurance, my contract ended at Water Affairs.
So it was a fixed term contract?
Yeah. My contract ended. I met my wife there at Water Affairs. And she was a level above me. But she was working in a different region altogether. So I was like, I got a girlfriend now. What is she gonna say if this guy's unemployed? This guy's unemployed. I mean, like, yo. But she didn't care, hey? I mean, she didn't mind. She didn't care. I mean, she's been a phenomenal person. I mean, she's really helped me to, climb the ladder, and just be free and just motivate me. And then I think at that time I was desperate. looking for different roles. And then I saw this ad in the newspaper saying, looking for call center, no experience needed. And then I applied. They liked my communication, and they liked my confidence over the phone. But I think that's because I couldn't see the next person, the person I'm talking to. And because I had a script, so it helped me. So I learned the script, changed a few things, applied myself, and then it just worked. And then, yeah.
Because you moved up, I mean, you moved between positions relatively quickly.
Quickly, yeah.
I mean, what, in 5 years, you go from basically, kind of call center to manager, funeral sales manager, to advisory sales manager. And if I'd met you, it's like, okay, you're on the trajectory, right? You're living the dream. You're working your way up corporate, and you're working your way up corporate quite quickly. And then you leave.
So now, I think if I was still in corporate now, I'd probably be in your higher echelons of management. Being in the call center business teaches you a lot about people, a lot. And a lot of people, you get those calls. They're so irritating, But coming from the belly of the beast to understand what happens in that environment is very eye-opening. A lot of call center agents go through trauma. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of victimization, even though it is very rewarding. It's very, very rewarding because you get paid a basic and you get paid commission. I had clients who I spoke to over the phones who were doctors and lawyers, who would brag about what they earn, knowing very well I'd earn more than them, but I'm not allowed to be to antagonize them or to be, rude to them. You just have to take everything your client tells you, speak to them very nicely, be very diplomatic, and then close the sale. So it really, really kind of helped me with the sales part, because even though I was from an entrepreneurial family, I didn't understand the psychology of sales. And when you go into that environment, it teaches you about the psychology of sales, being resilient during hard time, persevering through challenges, following up with your leads, and planning. And I think that environment in and of itself taught me quite a lot to set me up for my current career. And I shadowed a lot of people. I shadowed a lot of agents because they helped me to get better at what I was doing. So if I see you a top performer, I'd sit next to you and I'd just listen to you the whole day. I'd listen to you. I'd write down your script. I'll go to the next person. I'd write down their script, and I'd go to 3 top performers, the highest earners in the business, write down their scripts. And then I'll put it together and I'll create my own script. And then I would be the 3rd top performer, 2nd top performer, 1st top performer. But it wasn't easy because I'd had to kind of, Pursuit of Happiness. You've watched Pursuit of Happiness, right?
I didn't finish it, actually.
So you remember there's this part where he's in the stockbroking company and he's making a lot of calls, and then he minimizes his time to go to the toilet. He doesn't take coffee breaks because he needs to fetch his son. So I actually did some of those things. Only when I saw the movie, I realized that, oh, okay. So this was, something that you do just to optimize your time. So I'd had to make about 2,000 calls a day just to make 5 sales. 5 sales. You'd have to call 2,000 people.
So the reason I didn't finish the movie, when I watched it, I think my son was under a year, let's say 6-7 months. And I just come out of, I was in a consulting job, and the firm that I was consulting for then lost kind of the client that I was working on, they lost that contract. So I literally went from making good money as a consultant, having just bought a townhouse with my wife, first child, and then all of a sudden that job is gone. And there's this scene where he's in the toilet with his son.
Yeah.
And my son was sleeping in the other room.
Mm.
And I couldn't watch past that point. It felt too close to home. Because, I mean, it was not as extreme as that. But at a time when I'm trying to figure out all of this stuff and I'm watching this movie, and I literally could not get past that scene. And I've never gone back to watch the film.
No, you should. You should. You've gone past that.
Yeah. I mean, probably. But yeah, I'll get to it one day. I actually met the guy. One of the brands brought him down. What's his name? Chris Garner.
Yeah.
One of the brands brought him down, and I got to hear him kind of speak about a story. And that for me, I'll probably go back and read the book.
Yeah.
I lean towards more of that.
But
what you did, story. I mean, you know, it's available to all of us, but it takes a certain kind of mind and willingness, and openness to be able to say, actually, do you know what? I'm going to go out and learn. I mean, we're surrounded by lessons every day, right?
Yeah.
There's lessons in every experience, in every space that we interact with.
Yeah.
But we don't always recognize that. With hindsight, could you say what it is that drove you to take that specific approach?
Which one?
Of, okay, I'm going to go and learn from these people. I'm going to go watch these people. I'm going to go shadow these people. Because like I'm saying, you weren't alone.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of you in this space.
Yeah.
And you're saying, okay, these are the three. First, you're going, these are the three top performers. For a lot of people, it's, okay, one day I want to be like them.
Yeah.
But are unable to see the steps you need to take.
Yeah.
To be able to achieve the same or similar or surpass.
Was hunger. I think that's why. It was hunger. It was the desire to be great at what I do. Because I don't like doing things half-heartedly. If I do something, I do it 110%. So, and if I take something on and I don't do it to the best of my ability, I feel like I'm just wasting my time. And I'd just rather not do it at all. So if I do something, I want to do it and be great at what I do. And because also peer pressure, you know, your girlfriend is earning so much more than you, you know, she's bringing in the bacon, and I was like, this person has done so much for me. What am I contributing? Because I was living with her at the time, you know. I was like, nah, man, I can't sit here on my laurels and, you know, say, no, I'm studying. Because I didn't graduate immediately. I remember I dropped out of varsity, but I still continued working, continued studying even while I was working and still call centering. So I then decided, you know what, pull my socks up. Let me just apply myself. And I did great with the publication. I did great with all the other businesses I had when I was young. I can be okay here, you know, but I don't have the formula. I don't have the skill. So the best people to learn from are the guys at the top. And obviously I encountered some resistance, but I also encountered some people who were very helpful, who wanted to teach, who wanted to impart their knowledge. And fortunately, I got guys who were very helpful.
I can imagine if I'm doing really well, and then you come and sit next to me and take all my secrets. Different people have different approaches to that.
Yeah.
So somebody may be like, it's all good. I'm willing to share.
Yeah.
Other people be like, what? You're trying to knock me off my horse. It's like the idea of being competing for one pie.
Yeah.
A slice of the pie.
Yeah.
And you got the people who go, there's one pie, so I'm trying to get as big a slice as possible, which is the person who's not going to be as open. My belief is that it's not one pie. We can make multiple pies.
Yeah.
And not everybody loves pie. So, maybe it's also making pizza. And I can have my pie and you can have your pie.
Yeah.
So anything that I do or anything that you do is not actually going to take away or encroach on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot more open to sharing because of that philosophy. But I can imagine you encountering both types.
I was. But the guys who I would shadow or listen to, one thing that stood out from them was not what they said, but how they said it. And a lot of agents or call center agents kind of miss that part. Some of them would say the right things, but they said it incorrectly. Or they said it with a wrong tone.
Yeah.
Or they put one word before the other, which compromised the whole offering. Or they wouldn't close on time and oversell. Or, they just created roadblocks for themselves while speaking to the customer and not actually hearing what the customer wanted. So these guys who I listened to, that's what they had in common. They knew how to say the right thing at the right time, but they trained themselves over time to say it. And that's what I got from them. As much as I got the script, I also got the technique and what to say when and how to say it. Because over the phone, the most important thing is trust. Your customer needs to trust you. It's the same as the internet, online or e-commerce. The browser, the person, your visitors, they need to trust your store. And there's advocacy that has to come with that, whether it's from social sources, whether it's from your influencers, whether it's from how you advertise, how you market, or your brand story, it's trust.
You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. We delve into their journeys, the decisions they have taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the spirit takes us. Now let's get back into the conversation. And Chepa, so first of all, where does the name come from?
Okasi, Mamelodi. Chepa, well, it's a Pedi word.
Okay.
For Chepa in Sepedi, it means to be stylish.
Okay.
But in Mamelodi, it was used very, slang. It was used as a slang word just to say, Kichepile, I'm stylish. So that's where I took that word from.
From idea to actually, okay, I'm going to do this. What was the time period?
I'm very aggressive. So, I think a year, was it 6 months? It was 2017, and then I left 2018, April. So I started March 2017. Yeah. The interest started around 2017, mid 2017, March. And then we can call it about 8 months.
Was it a moment or was it a gradual thing? And I asked this, so I have a company. that, amongst other things, produces this podcast. But it was started in a moment. Literally an afternoon, I was sitting on a Saturday afternoon in summer at a cigar lounge that I like to go to that you actually visited
The
once.
one in Cedar.
Yeah. But it was Saturday afternoon, I was sitting there and I just had a notebook.
Yeah.
And just kind of making notes and just thinking about stuff. And decided that I needed a company I call my play company.
Okay.
So it's like I have all these ideas, like I have all these things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm now at the stage in my life where sometimes I do things just because I always wanted to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, I need a vehicle that if I decide, I want to explore that thing, I can explore it.
Yeah.
And it could be bottling water.
Yeah.
Or making pens. Or running events. It does not have to be the only thread that runs through it is me, because I'm interested in
doesn't have to be
diverse
rigid.
things. Yeah. So I literally made notes for the company, including what it would do, in an afternoon, and then on the Monday I went online and registered it.
Oh, okay.
And then and it's been around. Actually, it's been around, I think, since 2017. And I've done different things. It's only been the last 2-3 years where I could say the company works. But even the company working is just me going and pursuing certain projects or doing work for clients.
So passionately guided impulsiveness, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, although I struggle with the word passion. Like we bandy it around too much. So I don't do things because I'm absolutely passionate about them.
Yeah.
The fundamental thing that I'm passionate about is the life and lifestyle that I'm creating for myself and my family. Everything else is kind of a means to an end, even if it's not generating revenue, for example.
Yeah.
So it's more scratching itches. Like I have multiple itches. Like I have multiple things that at some stage in my life, I was like, it'd be cool to do that.
More like exploring.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess semi-impulsive exploration of of the things that I'm curious about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's fueled by curiosity at the end of the day, and you act on it because you want to say, tick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah, with Chepa, it was gradual. From the get-go, I've always wanted a business, a sustainable business. And I knew that everything I was doing at the time was a means to an end, or a means to me entering the space of entrepreneurship. But I wanted to get that training and skill that I would not have gained from, let's say, my dad or anywhere else. So while I was still in corporate and I was doing well, Chepa started as a side hustle. And then it just grew from there. And then I taught myself how to build an online store. I taught myself digital advertising. So I would go to work, come back from work at around 6, spend time with the family. They would go to sleep at around 8, 9. And then from 8, 9 up until 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd be watching YouTube videos. I'd be practicing. And I'd just be learning. And I did that for a good 6 months until I decided, okay, now I'm going to build a store. But during that period, in between that period, I was attending markets. So every Friday, every Saturday, I was at a flea market do a pop-up, put up my tent, put up my stock, and sell.
How are we producing then?
I had a guy who was manufacturing for me. So I had a guy who was manufacturing for me. Eventually, I was like, hey, let's go into business together. Let's do a joint venture. He was like, nah, I'm happy just making them for you. I'm like, okay.
And design? I mean, you came out with a relatively distinctive design look at a time when a lot of people were trying to find their spaces.
Yeah.
Like, and this was kind of streetwear was the thing. And it was the early days. It feels like it was the early days of South African clothing, clothing brands being built, but also looking for something that set them apart. Because we've had the ones that look like anything else. Chepa, for me, has always stood out because there was something distinct about it. It's like you think about a Makosa, like what Laduma has done with Makosa. There was something very distinct about it that you can then build on, which you have done.
Yeah.
But where did that design, what was kind of the design approach?
It was not looking like typical African way. I tried to stay as far away from that and just look at what I like from a contemporary silhouette and just put a print on it. That was the core, to be very honest.
But your prints feel very, in inverted commas, African.
Yes. And I stayed away from very African prints, even though you could see that this is a very Afrocentric print, but it's not ukoko or tungayo type of print. I was very intentional about that, and also looking at prints that were very distinctive. We released a jacket called Vilagazi. That was one of our first top sellers. It had a black sleeve, and then the body had a very bold print in the center. And when you zipped it, it was very symmetrical. And, people really, really loved that. It flew off the shelves. And we started, that kind of became a staple of ours because we released other prints that were like that. And it's just how we put the prints together and we achieve the symmetry. So I think when it comes to design, I didn't go to school. I didn't go to design school. I love beautiful things. I love clothes. I love how people express themselves in their clothes. One person said to me, whenever I see you, I just hear music. And I think also because of my love for music, it just opened up that creative part of me. Because I don't do anything without music. Everything, even at work. When I'm working in my office, there's music playing. When I drive, there's music or there's an ebook, playing. And I think even following my favorite musicians and seeing other musicians, how they dress, looking at the past and the new, that kind of influences me. And in terms of putting together garments, I'm not a designer. I just like things. But for the brand, we do have a designer, and we're actually looking at even improving and increasing our design team because we understand the importance of having our own distinct kind of, uniqueness about us, because that's what sets a brand apart. Innovation all the time. Yes, I mean, when it comes to design and when it comes to Chepa, it's more passionate, more, for me personally, it's more putting out what I see in the world and what I love.
When did it go from side gig to, okay, now I need to devote all my time to this?
When I saw the e-commerce or the online store performing. Yeah, that's when I realized that I'm sitting on great, a potentially great um, company or business. Because I'd be at work and I'm managing my team. I'm walking around, I'm motivating them, I'm giving them numbers, I'm doing coaching, monitoring, I'm, attending my meetings, and my phone keeps on ringing. And the sales are coming. And one day I looked at my phone, I was like, what am I doing here? And then my boss passed me and I'm like, dude, I think I'm gonna leave. He's like, eh? No, I'm gonna leave. What you gonna do? I'm gonna do clothing. I'm gonna sell my jacket. It's like, what? You're gonna leave your job for these colorful jackets of yours? I'm like, yeah. But I'll tell you, let me just figure it all out. I went home and told my wife, and she's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I think it's time. And then in April of 2018, that was my last day. I put in my resignation. Put in my resignation 3 months in advance. I worked, and then I left 2018.
And your wife, I mean, she, like you were saying earlier, like, it feels like she's been supportive in a way that it's enabled you to also made it easier to make those decisions.
Yeah, it has.
Because when I first met you, for me, in my mind, you're always a unit.
Yeah.
Even with Chepa and the stuff that you're doing, it was always like I saw the two of you together, kind of working to build this thing.
Sure. I mean, she was at every flea market. When I was lifting up stock, she was lifting up the decor, the chairs. I mean, we built this makeshift, how do I call it? It was, like these wooden branches from a tree, and then you stack them up.
Yeah.
You create kind of like a frame. So we created that frame, and then we took pallets. She painted the pallets in white to create like what is that? Again, where we can hang the jackets.
Yeah. Like a rack or something.
Yeah, like a rack. So she painted, and this was, we would do this over the weekend. We'd sleep at like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock while she's painting. And like I'm busy, like I'm knocking in those things. And eventually, every Saturday, we'd load 4 frames, about 2 pallets, and the stock at the back, chairs, a table, tablecloth, Yoko, machine, and anything else, marketing material that we need. Tie the bakkie, go to the flea market. I mean, she's been through it all, man. She's been through everything with me, selling in the rain, putting up that gazebo. And I didn't buy that gazebo that you just stretch out nicely. No, mine was the piece one.
You have to unravel,
you got
hammer into the ground.
It was the piece one. You got to put it together, and you got to have 4 people carrying it. But we did it, 2-man team.
How are you navigating family? Like, I mean, you have kids, so the two of you are kind of chasing this, putting in the work, but you also have kids to raise.
Well, that was purely, I'm very fortunate to have a wife who comes from a home where family was the core and it was embedded in her. And I think for me, I was also very fortunate enough to be raised seeing a man raise 3 children by himself. When growing up, I didn't actually realize it, but now that man was a very strong individual to raise 3 kids by himself, lose his wife, never get remarried. And that really struck a chord in me. And I'm like, those are some big shoes to fill, you know? So then I said, no, I have to, set the bar higher because I've got 2 boys. And me seeing my dad, now I've got these 2 guys who I need to guide, and build up. Who do they see? Children don't do what you tell them. They do what you show them and how you react. So we then sat down and we decided, okay, dude, if we are doing this thing, we need to do it right. Obviously, we were raised in different backgrounds. You grew up in Cape Town with a fully fledged family. I grew up in mom's, raised by my dad. There's certain things I don't know. There's certain things she taught me from her family and the stuff that I teach her from my family. But we put in the work. There are some times where I think even in our marriage, I was not mature to being in a relationship with her. Still very, wet behind the ears while I was with her. But she's been very patient. Yeah, she was very patient with me, and she kind of created that safe space to be able to navigate raising kids. I think now we're in such a better space to even raise our kids, because what we do for them. Yeah.
What have been the biggest lessons in kind of going into entrepreneurship, let's say fully now?
Yeah.
Because growing up, you're around it. I mean, I see some similarities between our background and that. I was raised by somebody who left teaching to go into entrepreneurship and ran different businesses. I was also raised by my father as my dominant parent. But what for you? And it's hard, and I know it's one of those questions where, because life can't be distilled, but I'm asking you to do that in terms of the main kind of takeaways you've gotten from running your own business and the early challenges that you've found a way around.
I think planning, goal setting, being objective minded, and not letting the noise impact you, good or bad. Like there's good noise and there's bad noise. Continuously elevating. Those are the biggest lessons. The biggest challenges is being disciplined enough not to be distracted. Because in business, when you do start a business, there's a whole lot that you have to do. There's so many, you got your hands in different pockets, in different jars, your HR, your finance, your production, your marketing, you all of this. And I struggled a lot with trying to be perfect and not trying to make progress. And I've learned that I just need to make progress and not try too much to be perfect. There's certain things as an entrepreneur in your business, on your final product what needs to be perfect. But to the external party or the end user, they don't have the technical ability to recognize that it's not perfect. So, so I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're very hard on ourselves, very, very hard on ourselves. And it can be a good thing, and sometimes it cannot be a good thing, because if it's not a good thing, that means you're not leveling up to be the best you can be.
So how easy has it been to let go of, like you say, when you start, you are everything, like you're every department.
Yeah.
But as you grow, the only way you can grow is if you build a team around it.
Yeah.
And start to relinquish control
Yeah.
over certain aspects.
Yeah.
So how easy or difficult has that been for you? Because you've built a decent team now. Like the business has grown from just you and the wife kind of running around.
Yeah.
You outsourcing the manufacturing.
Yeah.
To you now kind of running a proper, fully fledged team.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very personal, because this is your baby. This is where this is the foundation where you've built your dreams on. And I think over time you can be able to lack sensitivity because of the organization you've built. In the very first or early phase, it is your baby, but over time it gets to be an organization and have a life of its own. And during the early stages, that's when it's very difficult to let go. But as the business matures, then it becomes an organization that requires much more skill, and it becomes a bit more easier when you have the skilled individual. There is that sense of trust that one needs to get over, of which I had as well. But over time, because the business has a life of its own, then the skill that you bring into the business makes it easy for me to let go. But I need to be confident enough that I have the right skill in the business to be able to let go. Because if I'm micromanaging you, that means I don't trust you enough to be able to do the job. But if I don't micromanage you, then I can completely let go and be able to say, okay, you've got this, run with it. And then I've got the faith and the trust in you. And then I can look at other strategic stuff that I need to focus on to grow the business.
What's CCS Apparel?
CCS Apparel is a clothing manufacturer that focuses on the B2B side of things. It's a CMT, it's an FPP. We do embroidery. We also do
FPP. Sorry,
FPP is full package production.
Okay.
Say you have a design in mind, but you don't have the experience to put out your product. So we created that entire process and system for you. We do the manufacturing, we do the labeling, we do the packaging. We're able to also assist with your sales strategies. So that's your FPP. You've got an idea in mind, you come to us, we sit down, we bring in our designers, we roll it out for you. This is something that I've been working on for 2 years. And in the past 2 years, it has grown exponentially. I haven't marketed it. I haven't put it out there. It was primarily, it's a business that I created based on my network, and being able to say, hey, this is what I can do for you. And then corporates would then come and say, okay, look, I want windbreakers. Can you do them for me? Yes, I can do windbreakers. Then we're able to manufacture for you.
And it helps that you've built the case study.
Yeah.
Because you've gone through that with your own business.
So we're like the brand behind your brand. So because we understand how important it is for you to provide a high quality product, we will not give you a product that we cannot wear. Or me personally, I wouldn't do that, because it tarnishes my reputation, it tarnishes my work or the business's work. And we understand how creating relationships is very important. So CCS does that. It's the brand behind your brand in terms of your clothing manufacturing.
Okay. I'll probably give you a call one of these days.
Sure.
So what does, as we close up, what does the next year look like for you? Personally, professionally, just what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? What are you building towards?
Personalization, customization, unique prints. It's the year of investment for us as a business, for me as well, personally, because I do have other things I do outside of Chepa, which are business oriented. I do have other projects that I work on. So I think I've taken a lot of time to grow the business, to grow my family. So now it's a year for me just to take stock of what I've grown and then reinvest. So for Chepa, we are focusing more on our custom prints. So designing our prints from scratch, preparing the fabrics from scratch, being more unique and more competitive in the market and releasing beautiful products, engaging more in creating a community with our customers, engaging more with them, and just to continue to bring out great products, connecting more with our clientele. Our team is growing. We've got great skill in the business. I'm very excited about the team. We've got a wonderful team. We've got some great designers who are also joining us. So yeah, I think that's what I'm excited about. The change we're able to make in the lives of the people who are working at Chepa. Yeah, that for me is very, very exciting. I think there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of new things that we're learning, because eventually, like every year we learn something new. Every day we learn something new in our business. And I'm just not speaking in general, but in our business, we learn something new. And that's what keeps the fire burning. We have so many ideas that we haven't put out. We've been keeping them on the shelf. And I think that's what I'm excited about this year.
When you're not working?
Hey?
When you're not working, what are you doing?
When I'm not working?
Yes.
When I'm not working...
Because I also see the family is growing itself.
Yeah, I've recently...
Literally.
Yeah, I've got a daughter now. And yeah, she's just beautiful. Just my bundle of joy. She's very special. When I'm not working, I spend time with them. I hike. I listen to my ebooks. I try to learn a new skill, something new every day. I've gone back to the gym. I haven't been to the gym in the past year or so. So I think I gained like 14 kilograms in the past year. So I started the gym in December and stopped. Now I went back again in Jan, and I'm making good progress. So I want to make progress in my health. And there's a lot that I need to change about me. Not even change, but just develop. Yeah, I think there's development areas, for everyone. But for me personally, is that there's a lot of development areas when it comes to my discipline in the business, my discipline outside of the business. And it's something that I work on every chance that I get. So each year I try to focus on a skill that I can improve. just to grow the business. Because I mean, we've grown from a very small team to a big team. So the responsibility now is how do you maintain that? So as much as the business has to level up, as the leader, I also need to level up. You know, I can't just expect them to do all the work because I need to be able to say, okay, this is where we're going, and to share that vision. But how do I share a vision if I can't be able to set the tone and the discipline to maintain it? And there's processes also involved, you know, and it's not just my work life, it's my family life. Kids are going to a new school. I need to be able to find my way around that, you know, and it's not just kids, it's my wife now. How do I then keep that fire burning type of thing, you know? Do I say, okay, every Saturday, let's go out, like impromptu type of stuff? So there's a lot of effort in everything, and I just need to commit and level up.
Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Baffoe. In this podcast, I speak to Africans from across a multitude of sectors, including business, art, culture, media, design, technology, advertising, and everything in between, delving into their journeys and reflecting on the lessons they have learned along the way. It's about gaining insight into why and how they do what they do. These conversations offer a treasure trove of takeaways on a wide range of topics, including craft, relationships, wellness, parenting, entrepreneurship, and much more.